You welcome in. Movie recap. Today we will tell you A Jade's First Movie Story 2008. The film started in the 1930s in Foshan, a prosperous area known as the Center. Some martial arts saw kung fu masters direct their students to, on the other hand, they practice martial arts. But Monset approaches him at dinner. A table tells him that there is kung fu. It turns out a master who wants to meet him. It was Mr. Liu, who had just opened Kung Fu Academy in Foshan, and his desires to train with Ip Man because Ip Man is a well-known Wing Chun master. Ip Man politely declines the invitation, but Liu insists and tells Ip Man to argue secretly. Even if Ip Man did not lose anyone, he will know after his approval. But he says he wants to finish his lunch with his wife. Jinna sings first and asks Liu to join in. Them on the table, Precious wife stared at Liu sarcastically. He even has voracious manners. Continue with snacks after the meal, while Ip Man smokes a cigarette after him. The meal shortly after the start of the fast. Liu is thrown away after Ip Man is injured him several times at the same time. The teenager is trying to reach out. Kite stuck in the yard saw the man. Occurrence then Ip Man throws some. Liu punches him until he confesses to him. Defeat soon after Liu master's request. Defeat and Ip Man agrees and goes to Yao home later that day at Yuan restaurant. Teenager before telling his friends that he saw him defeat Yao with Master Ip. Shortly after, Ip Man arrives at the same time. A restaurant about to get its business done. Partner on the other hand Liu. He supervises the reception of his students. Defeat to master and accelerate Ip news. The restaurant you are looking for. Arriving there, Yao immediately scolds on you, but then Senior Lin Yuan comes. Brother and owner of the restaurant. Dismiss them and refuse to blame them. Hurry up and climb to Ip Man Ho. He asks Master Ip for Lin to defend him next. He pulls you back and tells him not to humiliate anyone, in the General Yuan still crazy, but then Lin pulls it off right away. Yan hangs down so that everyone. He laughs at him and goes away, blushing. Later, a policeman named Li Zhao comes. He asks Kung Fu hooligans not to create a file. Foss says how outdated Kung Fu is. He shows his gun while pointing at her. Ip Man but immediately blocks Ip Man. Fire the gun and pay the gun. From the cylinder, Li Zhao was left speechless. He admits that Kung Fu is loud sometimes, but that doesn't mean they are uncivilized. Then Ip Man decides to treat Li Zhao, and the crowd spread out into the house. After you lend Mom the capital to Chu, business partner to open cotton factory, and welcome to Ip Man. The accompanying chewing comes on suddenly. Lin, who wants to show the new master Ip Man technology at the same time, Man's wife Ip accompany their son. In the middle of their practice, his son approaches Ip Man, but he ignores him. His wife stared at him as they watched. Asked the neighbors outside Ip Man to replicate his technologies. He heard that his wife was angry. Scatter them away, and then ask Ip Man to save more time with their son. Once upon a time there was a group of wanderers, led by Jinshan Zhao, who came to Foshan Kung Fu Masters Challenge. There he challenges the Kung Fu Masters, and he wins easily. Good. He feels proud of him and his men. Celebrated out of the blue at a food stall. The kiosk owner told him not to brag yet, before he could defeat Ip Man. Upon hearing that, then he rushes off to find the Ip guy coming. At his home, she immediately challenges Jane, the guy Ip, to fight, but he refuses to. The wife also settles in the Wanderers group. Jin then becomes depressed because of the Ip Man's condition. He is afraid of his wife, and then Jane tells him, the wife who will not kill him, until he told her he wouldn't use it. His hand feels offended and agrees. Challenge shortly after the policeman arrives. He asks Ip Man to take Foshan back. A battle of dignity and fierceness took place. Blow after blow delivered by the Ip Man makes Jane smashed and then did not drop anyone. Jin's men handed him a sword and an Ip Man. You fight it off with a feather duster. Then the fight ended with the fall of the sword. Jin's hand and Ip's man kill him. Jin but then slap Jin and his men. Leave through Foshan mockery. Foshan people since then very people. Gentleman Ip who has at times free merchandise on the market. Thank you. Form, but the beautiful story must come to an end. By 1937, when Japan colonized China, many people are starving. And it got worse when I got to Japan. Foshan 1938, Japanese troops. Many buildings were destroyed. The facilities have also been taken over. So far, Moon's house finished and became Ip administrator at HQ. He lives in misery even with his wife still beside him. Foreign. He goes to the market to trade it. Valuables for some rice was there. He invited over by Chuan to his factory. She is still allowed to work and show his position, considering that Ip Man. It was he who lent him the capital to the factory, but he rejects him, saying he does not want to owe him. One day IP Man cooked some porridge. She was always worried about his sick wife, about their food supply, so he calmed down by telling her he will get it. Later, almost everything was rejected. It's time to finally join the co-worker foreign restaurant owner at rest. The man keeps some of his food in his pocket. Lin sees this next. He offers Mr. IP some of his food there. Lin said they have some chat. IP Master Lin that his brother is no longer. After he pulled his pants back on, he said in the past that he wanted to. He apologized to his brother when he was Lin. I am looking for a Japanese tin container. The army came up with Li Zhao in their capacity. He heard General Fox interpreter. Citizens are good at kung fu. He invited them to a tournament against their Karate. If they win, they are going to be rewarded with rice. They all feel good, excited, including Lin, but not IP Man. Shortly after their arrival in the arena, where Liu won some rice from a fight by watching his skill make Miura, a general, won a battle in the arena as well. He wants to face 3 costumes for a price time and rewards them with rice. They either win or lose, and then in the end, the square descended, and its face was 3 fashions with Lin Fei, Miura Kan. 3 people were killed in one hit. He made them give up, but not Lin, who he stands up and hits Miura back. However, Majora manages to attack Lin and throws. He returns until he coughs up blood. Foreign. The next day, while working, he found IP Man into a pot and keeps it in his own pocket. At the break again, Li Zhao came. Fashion workers pray for another tournament. Their IP Man approaching me. Zhao asks about Lin but is ignored. It forces IP Man to come to him, hoping to be able to find land in it. The square. After Mon Liu sees the winner, Miura asks about another 1v3 battle, and Miura gave it to him, but he lost the fight and surrendered. He left the square but was suddenly shot by Colonel Sato. In the header of the page says, the loser should not take his wages. He went mad about it happening, and so was Miura, to his faith, where he told him so. Only heroism and never should. You don't have a championship anymore. The IP Man's cries continued at Li Zhao's. He tells him he wants to fight. Joey asks if Flynn was hit death too, but Li Zhao remains silent and open IP Man gateway. Then he asks to confront 10 people at once, but Li Zhao did it, but he insists. Although the stunned mayor still granted his request, was submitted shortly after the fighting began. The IP guy beats them 1 by 1 mercilessly. I left Miura game. After defeating everyone, Miura asks to return with his reward of rice, but he rejects her and takes Liu bloody rice bag instead and gives it to the Liu family. Is there to warn Li Zhao, be careful guys, IP with the Japanese army, but then slapped Li Zhao. Being a traitor, Li Zhao was offended. He said he was just a translator and the death of their people has nothing to do with it. With him IP Man, and then left him. Upon arriving home, his wife treats his wounds. He is glad that he is still his wife. There for him later that day. Halfway through, we see Jane blocking AJ soldier's truck and hijacked it. Then they went to the cotton factory to blackmail them, but since then they have nothing. Offers Jin and then hits you. Seeing the crash, chewed on the sun. After that, came to Master IP for help, but unfortunately it's too late. Wanderer has already gone and told us, come back later, and nobody seems to be. The Wanderer is Yuan's brother. The late Lin arrives at the factory next. He sees the wounded man chewing on the work. Afterwards, he asks Chu and IP Man to teach him Wing Chun. All factory workers followed him. The IP guy smiles and approves it and then teach them Wing Chun. Later, IP Man, who was playing with his son, he surprised me. Zhao's appearance tells the IP guy that Miura wants to be in a fight against him. Then suddenly Sato appeared too. Amazed by the beauty of the man's wife IP, he approaches her and wants to take her. The IP Man then spontaneously attacks Sato, and his men pass out. Then Li Zhao asked the intellectual property man and his family to isolate themselves. Shortly after Li Zhao, Sato was severely beaten by Lai Lan. Zhao let them run away, as Miura says he will post everything he has. Soldiers to find a man. IP then went to Mi Zhao. The house was hit and met the IP guy where he was. Li Zhao thanked for hiding his family. Later, Jin and his men come to the cotton little plant they know. The workers were already ready for them access. The mass battle took place and came mid-fighting IP Man and helped them fight the Wanderer. The Wanderer launched their second blow with some axes in hand, but IP Man, he manages to overpower them, and then Jane intervenes. With a garden fork he found the Yuan. For his part, they are trying to fight IP Man, but IP Man beats fantastically them with bamboo. Even Jin and Hu, the men go IP Man and then chase you. His brothers gave him a tin pot and he tells him about his late brother. I was shocked and cried at the news. At night, Li Zhao hurriedly approaches IP Man and tells him not to be anywhere. near Lan Mira Cotton Factory. There was currently in the factory scene. Sato tortures Chuan to find the IP Man. Then IP Man suddenly appeared to transform himself at Sato and then beat him up. He knelt when Sato was about to shoot. IP Mira guy stopped him and asked IP Man to teach Kung Fu Japanese Army Fu. Gracious refuses and challenges Mira's fight. Instead, Mira asks his men to arrest Valued on his way, screaming. He chews on telling him to take his family away from Fashion. Later, General Mira visits and delivers a meal for an IP Man himself. Asked for Mira to display their fight to the public. Everyone can witness how Japan karate supremacy in Chinese Kung Fu. Yetman doesn't just say anything. He pushes his meal away from him the next day. Today, IP Man's wife was seen crying at a car with a Chu to drive away from. Fashion regretted not having regrets. Support orphan in his martial art. Finally, the battle took place. They blow their technology hard at each other. Foreign. It seems Wu Chuan's family is valued. He went back to the arena to watch IP Man fight. Finally, IP Man manages to Mira beat his corners and hits. To his defeat fell General Mira. Precious defeat by the people of Fashion. Cheer him with the joy of his victory. But suddenly a hit shot was drawn. The guy IP in Sato's chest shoots him. He kicks him out of the ring immediately afterwards. People flock to the arena, while Sligo tries to grab Sato's gun. He managed to shoot Sato in the neck. His wife and the people surrounding the man. IP Foreign, with the help of his friend He Choos, an injured IP Man, managed to escape from Fashion. After leaving Fashion and moving to Hong Kong, when Ken takes IP Man to a rooftop hall in Hong Kong where the I-Man teaches Wing Chun. But after 8 days of being there, still no student logged in. In the evening, IP Man finally comes home and helps him. His pregnant wife takes some water. He lives as an immigrant who has nothing. At home, their door. The landlord collected the rent, but they chose not to answer because they got it. No money to pay the bill. The next day, IP Man is visited by an unknown teenager carrying his academy handbook when he helps his neighbor dry clothes. He thought the guy was up to it. He enrolls in his academy, but when the IP Man explains to him about Wing Chun, the guy in W cut him off. He challenged IP Man to a duel instead. He says he will pay if he loses. IP Man smiled at him, and before the challenge and the duel begins, IP Man fights him calmly at first, without injury, touches IP Gloss. Then he started throwing his dangerous punches and managed to knock him down. Finally, the employer demands the promised salary, but the man leaves him instead. In the evening, the man returned with 3 men behind him to gather in the IP Man. There they mocked IP Man. Then the IP Man will chase them away if they are not about to learn Wing Chun. But they insisted. Then a 1 versus 4 battle happened. IP Man easily defeats them and leaves. But soon after, the unknown man named Liang knelt down, ready to be a student of IP Man. Apparently 3 men got down on their knees and asked the I-Man to be his students too. IP laughed at the gloss. He asked them to pay their fees first. The next day, he explains the IP Man to Wing Chun, his students, and trains them. Then his students increase day by day. One evening, IP Man charges their student fees, but IP Man does not collect payments aggressively if any are in poor financial condition. At night, when he was about to buy some sweets, IP Man was startled by the noise of the duck. The population pursues the thief. Feeling familiar, he willingly pushed the duck. The thief runs away, but his son takes IP Man to him. I can't believe his eyes, IP Man. When he encounters his longtime best friend, Chuan goes mad. He even relapses when IP Man attempts to approach him. IP Man has really destroyed it by sight. He blamed himself. Then Chu told him about it. His father became this way after being shot in the head. Then Cho IP Man says so. Sometimes he can't give him food because he does weird things. Then IP Man promises he must take care of his father together. The next day, IP Man brings Chu to Can recruit him. One day, when Loon was sticking flyers on the wall, some guy teased him. Hong Academy students. Liang then accepted the duel's challenge. It was a one-on-one duel at first, but after he wins the duel, he is immediately crushed by the rest of Hong's students. On the other hand, a student from Hong Kong visited IP Man and asked him to go to the fish market. Liang demanded a ransom for what the Liang had done to their brothers. When they got to the fish market, Liang released. Then he explained everything to IP Man. Then the student asks Hong about the IP Man, the ransom, but IP Man refuses. Then they gathered on IP Man. IP Man deals with them calmly. But again, they fired the second blow, and this time with weapons in their hands. IP Man defends himself with a wooden pallet, until IP Man finally managed to take 2 machetes. They were trapped. Then IP Man decided to take a hostage to escape. But in the middle of the road, on the other side, a group of people came running. Turns out there was Jin, the traveler from previous movie. But then Jin let the IP man go and begged him for his machetes. But not long ago, the IP man is again banned, but by Master Hong and his students. Then IP man introduces himself and explains Hong's mastery requirement. Mr. Hong got angry and said that the IP Man Academy, he does not have a permit, and IP Man needs a duel for every Kung Fu master in Hong Kong. No, after a long time, Mr. Hong went to the police office with his friend to give boxing ticket money. He asked for his share too, but was knocked out by the Western constable instead. At night, IP Man's wife asks him to give up his teaching career, but he insisted and tried to calm his wife. The next day, all the Kung Fu masters gather around a big white table for the fencing arena. After not too long, IP Man has arrived. Mr. Hong then introduces IP Man to fellow Kung Fu masters and command him to stay alive until the incense runs out or lose. Then the IP Man climbs up to the table with the first Kung Fu master. He beats Kung Fu master without any problem. Then the second master came, and again, IP Man manages to lock him up until he surrenders, until Mr. Hong finally came up to the table and fights IP Man. The fight is so exciting that the Kung Fu masters start to watch more seriously. They both fight well, are strong and agile. The fight ends when the table splits and both manage to stay on top of the table when incense ran out. Then IP Man got his permit, but Mr. Hong asked him to pay the monthly fee, just like other academies. But he refused. He said he would welcome any dueling challenges, but no to pay any fees on their behalf. Upon hearing this, Master Hong threatened IP Man and told him to do so. Keep his eyes open. Soon after, Mr. Hong sat down and drank herbal medicine for asthma. The next day, a man saw a beanie from Hong Academy, which blocked some people from searching for Wing Chun Academy in IP Man. Feeling uncomfortable with it, Liang then throws urns which start a quarrel between two academies. In the evening, Kan asks IP Man to empty his teaching space due to the incident of the fight. IP Man understands his request, but then visits Mater Hong to protest his request. Student dead. Master Hong justifies that having a Kung Fu Academy in Hong Kong is everything because of its close relationship with the West. He then challenges IP Man to another duel. But in the middle of the fight, Master Hong's son suddenly passed by. Fortunately, IP Man has managed to load it. Then Mr. Hong's wife and their children appeared. Invite Mr. Hong to dinner. HDNE IP Man requests permission to leave. The next day, Mr. Hong visited IP Man's Institute while teaching. Mr. Hong will call him. Watch Western boxing match. Then he leaves him, at which point they officially become friends. Soon after, Mr. Hong went to the boxing ring and asked the Western policeman about it. Men's salary in exchange for setting up the arena. But instead an angry cop. He threatened to close the fish market. Then his friend Fatso convinced him to understand. If not, people may become unemployed if the fish market is closed. At night, the event took place. It was opened by students of HNG Academy. Then Mr. Hong said IP Man to send his disciple to perform as well. There was also Twister, the boxer, attending the opening. It happened. Watching Kung Fu shows, Twister said that Chinese boxing is nothing more than a dance show. Then he gets on stage to provoke them. Then he attacks them all. He also said that Chinese boxing is nothing. Offended, the Kung Fu masters stepped onto the square and started a brawl. Then, Master Hong and IP Man also stepped onto the square to separate them. IP Man runs to defends himself from Twister's blows. Then Mr. Hong dodges Twister's blow and becomes furious. They demand an apology from Twister. He refused, then said he was going. I apologize if only Mr. Hong can hit him in the ring. Mr. Hong agreed, and the fight happened. Mr. Hong went through the first round just fine. IP Man worried about it and Mr. Hong suggests he go get his arms instead. Mr. Hong agrees. Throw many successful punches in the second round. But unfortunately, Mr. Hong fell by one of the big Twister icons. Mr. Hong got up, blew the tornado, and took a deep breath. Then his students realized that his asthma flared up. In the timeout, IP Man proposes to Mr. Hong to give up fighting. Mr. Hong insisted. He said he couldn't accept anyone trying to make fun of him. Kung Fu. Soon after the round continued, a lot of hurricane punches hit Master Hong. IP Gloss. He tries to give up, but is stopped by Mr. Hong. Get up and keep fighting. But he has asthma. He broke out again in the middle of the fight, saw the advantage, and then the hurricane hit Mr. Hong mercilessly. The referee sent his signal. The match ended, and Master Hong died. IP Man then comes to Master Hong's funeral to pay his last respects. The next day, Twister and his team hold a press conference. They refuse to sign as murderers, saying that Mr. Hong's death occurred because he himself was weak. Tornado. He also ridiculed how the Chinese used incense as a timer. Soon after, IP Man suddenly appeared by saying that they also use incense in prayer. He also challenged Twister to a duel. The next day, IP Man moves his family to his neighbor so he can train freely. He also took some. It's time to serve Chuan food. At that time, he was also singing on the suite, about to give birth. But she doesn't want to bother training IP Man. Finally, the important match day came. Everyone listened to the match on the radio channel. In ring, IP Man runs straight ahead after he sees Twister come onto the ring. But the verdict, returning him to his corner. The Western audience laughed mockingly at this sight. Then the fight begins. At first, IP Man seems overwhelmed by his agility and strength. Everyone begins to worry when one of Hurricane's punches knocks him out, but luckily, he manages to get up and everyone cheers for him because he also managed to bring down the Hurricane. In the second round, IP Man also manages to throw 1,000 blows into the Hurricane, but the tornado deftly hits IP Man after the ringing of the bell. The audience went crazy. Feeling aggrieved, the jury had a discussion which resulted in a kick ban for IP Man in third round. If he refuses, it's a win for Twister. There the Cyclone beats IP Man completely. Was down, but then he remembered what Mr. Hong had said. He got up. He targeted Twister's arms several times until he managed to knock Twister down. Hit his face repeatedly. The referee counts down and so do the people listening to the match. Hurricane was declared a loss. Everyone celebrated IP Man's victory. Then IP Man gave a speech. He said it was not about which kung fu is better in boxing, but it was all about respect between each other. He does not wish to offend anyone in the future. Western audiences gave him a standing ovation for his meaningful speech. After the match, IP Man rushes to his wife and her newborn. Days later, IP Man is visited by a young boy who wants to learn Wing Chun. IP Gloss. He laughed and asked him his name, and the boy tells IP Man that his name is Bruce Lee in the city of Hong Kong. IP Man, originally the masked wing master from Foshan. He lives with his wife King Wang Sheng and younger son IP Cheng. His eldest son IP Shun is chasing after him. Education in Foshan. The Hong Kong IP continues to teach the ward Chun in the promotion of the benefits of self-defense arts. One morning a young boy sued for long visits. He asked him to take his property from him. The IP disciple asked him to give one reason. Why should his student make him sue? He tells him he's fast and he can prove it. To have the best intellectual property challenges. His speed is the throw of one cigarette. Yet another in the series, Sue. He shows his speed by tackling. Cigarette immediately throws IP Professor a glass of water and Sui falls for defense himself from him. IP walks to the door, opens for him and Sue leaves. Next, the school where Chung Feng appeared, and IP King at the time of fighting. The rest of the students yell at them. After a moment their teacher Miss Wong arrived to stop fighting and escort. Both are at the teacher's table, where the parents are called. But Wing Mother King is the only one who sings it arrives. She tells the teacher that it should be the father of her son is Fong Le's fault. Come to it as a cart loader. He usually picks up late at school. IP finally arrives and apologizes for it. The delay in seeing Fong's hunger. Invite the IP to dinner at their home. During dinner, the IP sings and feeds the ward. Fong tenderly after dinner notices IP Feng's excellent Wing Chun skills. Wooden Man and ask him from his mentor. Feng told him that he was the disciple from his father Zhang Taishi. Just then Tenchai arrives to take his picture. Sun Xing and Feng apologize to each other to fight and Feng leaves with him. Father on the way home Feng acquaintances his father with the Wooden Man. But Sarah gets angry and tells him that he has 2 weeks to drive at school. Correspondent at the Martial Arts Academy IP reaches Master Ten and is a local Master of Martial Arts in X-Mass. His teacher gave him a ride academy. Ten presents the IP reporter. Best master, then they click pictures together. Only then the suite sings. Calls to talk to the IP and remind him of this. Tate seemed to miss their dancing. Very upset with him and ask him to. She picks up Ching from school. After taking pictures IP goes for selection. He swings outside the school and finds Tenchai the outside. Tenchai gives him a bottle of medicine for cramping that helps with bruising and IP. Thanks to him he also inquires about Chung. Wu Zun is studied next. He was asked if they could have a friendly match. The IP agrees to one day during the departure. School with Ching IP find Ma and he. The guys enter the school. They barge into the principal's office and start smashing everything hard. Authorized to sign the papers. School upon the principal's refusal. Selling something hard starts with a beating. him happily up IP there, and he defends the principal by defeating Ma. And the thugs who use it are awesome. Wing Chun's skills he manages at the right time. Call the police, but before the police, even IP can have to leave Ma. His men threaten him with knives. In the teacher's arms, the IP asks for help from the fatty stool that is the head, HCP, and dear IP friend. Bo is a very humble man and he agrees to help but make it clear that it is understaffed and very busy since HK. Crime rate in Kong is rising day by day. The IP asserts that it can connect to police whenever he wants, however. Unfortunately, the police could not show up. Protection 24 hours a day school. That night What gets angry after what happened. He was beaten and chained to school the next day. Parents and students in the morning at confused state after seeing the school is closed. IP arrives and unlocks the school. Hello his disciples. One of his disciples, Lick, is attracted to Miss Wong. Tell her she can call him at any time. She needs help. When watching thugs near the school, IP decides to guard the school. He orders his disciples to accompany him for him. At night when they were about to leave their homes are a large number of banana thugs. Sandal at school and during the IP. His disciples are busy fighting them. The rest set fire to the school and attempt to kidnap the director. Thank God that Tenchi was just getting off. A passenger is nearby and sees a gang kidnap the manager so he can use it. Wing Chun brutally knocks Moose down. Thugs one by one. Once the intellectual property battle is over thanks to the Tin Chin to help sing at home is the Wing. Furious after IP told her he would be out for a few nights for protection school. Meanwhile, Tenchai takes Fong to see the file rent place where it aims to open a martial arts school once upon a time. But since he doesn't have much money, the owner leaves furious when she sees Tenchai Tin is a trolley puller. He thinks he wasted her time like he does. He will not be able to run a school in. The senior officer of the police station, Bo Hu, a foreigner, cooperates openly. He was asked to stay out of school, the case because he will deal with it at home. The singing ward is facing severe abdominal pain. He goes to the pharmacy to get some pharmaceutical. Meanwhile, Mr. Tin meets IP on the job. He drank tea in the coffee shop while he was angry. His disciples and his hideous deeds. Violence in his anger breaks the cafe. The current is heading towards Hong Kong shipyard to meet Ma. Just then, Bo arrives at the school, find out the IP, and after knowing that IP and Ten in the shipyard rushes there. In the shipyard, Tin warmly insulted Ma for cursing his name. When you talk to him bad, slaps out of the tin. In front of his men get angry on Monday. Tin attacks with a knife, but he stopped by IP in time. All of Ma's men come to defend his mama. Just then Bo arrived with his gun to steam blasting. He threatens Ma to keep quiet or else he will be caught and will make his own shipyard. IP to be stamped are asked about his plan to save the school, tells him that Mom, his senior officer in his pocket, who not letting him handle the IP issue. Disappointed with Bo for giving up. Say it easily and give him a pep talk. For him it should be a good example. Protection for future generations. They're city brutal thugs. That night, IP comes home late and finds out his wife and son are asleep eating the diner that this sweet sings to. Winxing schedule the next morning. She leaves for the hospital to take herself. Just check to find out that it is. He was diagnosed with a tumor. Sad leaving the hospital and she walks home. On her way as she witnesses randomly women on the street praising the IP for his hard work. The next Tenchai is seen winning another underground fight after fight Ma. He offers to buy it for a large amount of money on the first construction. He refuses but then takes the deal. Maud was told to brutally beat the teacher Ten. To avenge his humiliation, he covers the Tenchi face and up to 10 umbrella, marketed by aggressive wounds that cause Tin. He is hospitalized at IP. He leaves for the school ward's attempts to sing. Tell him about her diagnosis, but over the phone. The call interrupts their conversation. Nurse calls IP from hospital. He informed him that Tin was badly injured, and he wants to see it. It turned out that my mother had visited the nurse to call, so IP rushes to the hospital in the meantime. He arrives at the school, and is kidnapped. Some students with Pong and Ching, what men defeat IP, and pupils, demands them to send their manager to shipyard in 2 hours or otherwise. Soon the children will be sold into slavery. He finds out that Tim hasn't called him. The hospital understands that it was a trap to lure him away from school by doing so. He rushes to school only to find out it is Miss Wong that his son is with her. The other children have been kidnapped. He heads to the shipyard with a line in town. Your hand finds the children locked in a cage. When seeing IP, Ma takes King out of the cage and points knife in his face. The IP demands that the pole and bow be cast down to it. powerless because of his son IP due his mother. He says then just get up and reach. He was allowed to take his son since he was working. On what earlier post it challenges IP to face 10 of his men, and if his son defeated, you must face the consequences. IP dealing aggressively with one man so far. Meanwhile, another Fong told Tenchai about it. His friends are in trouble. Tenchai returns and is brilliantly defeated, while he helps IP defeat the other thugs. In the midst of chaos, either attempts to run with King, but King bites him. He climbs a ladder to protect himself from the gang. Meanwhile, Bo brings a team of the policemen along with the reporter manage to manage the run away while the rest of the gang arrested. IP Ching takes home and tells Wing Sing he was kidnapped from school due to neglect of intellectual property towards him. The house and the family suite sing his slap. Tell him about her cancer and IP. I was shocked to hear the news. He takes her to the doctor who says, for them this Wing Sing's cancer, really crucial stage, more months to live. After reading news on the cover of the newspaper about children being kidnapped directly is angry. He proposes a foreign police officer take a break or it won't be able to protect them. In his outspoken anger, he extinguished his flames duties and hire an accomplished Thai boxer to pursue and terminate the intellectual property. Thai boxer attacks the IP and sings the Wing in the elevator when they return from the pharmacy. After a long series of punches and kicks, the IP excels at defeating him and taking what he has. Wife's house safely. Bo informs IP about it, such as Frank's nefarious schemes against him. IP decides to visit Express. In his office openly defies intellectual property. If he could keep fighting for 3 minutes, Frank will abandon his overtaking plan the school. They both start fighting in full swing by and give 100%. Finally, the battle ended in a draw so far. The timer runs out for 3 minutes, and the IP quietly get out of there. Frank makes good on his promise and backs off his plans to take over the school. Later on, Tenchai goes to the same rental place and rent it with money earned from what the IP sees on the front of the newspaper. Goes to meet served by a reporter in a restaurant. Some money to write about newspaper. Also tell him that the IP Ward Chun is not original and defies intellectual property to a battle. The reporter returns with his money and defamation of intellectual property is rejected. Later, Tenchai creates a scene in a restaurant that has led to its existence. Newspaper interface. He keeps doing that now and then to increase his fame. After he got it, Big Fame openly challenges her IP for the battle that will be decided. Master Wing Chun. Meanwhile, the IP spends all of his time with his wife, neglects everything that was published in the newspaper. Later, he went to dance lessons, learned to dance where he finds himself the boy Sue's long ago whom he first met. The film, Sue finally teaches him how to dance. The day of battle comes and everyone he arrived to watch the exciting battle between two legends, but instead of going to IP match, he has been spending time with his wife dancing ever since. IP fails to appear. Tenchai announced as a winner in the battle. After his victory, Tenchai claims himself be the true master of Wing Chun Ali. The other Ward Sing falls unconscious during the dance and is accepted. The hospital's IP cooks and feeds her. He also takes care of his son because he is ashamed of his family's neglect of that. Long Wing Singing knew that IP missed because of the match, so I wrote a message to Tin Kai for further arrangement match. She asked King to give the letter to Feng, who can give it to his father. Her health is getting worse day by day. I asked the IP to get a picture with for him. IP fulfills her wish, and they get it. I asked a family photo taken later. IP for match practice, that is, appointed on his behalf. On match day you will accompany. Start the game with full enthusiasm and, after multiple rounds of different uses, Wing Chun finally defeats IP. Cheer up with a punch. Feng and King also watch fully. Sneaky match. After fighting Tenchai breaks the Grandmaster banner. Wing Chun accepts his defeat. IP tells him that nothing more important in this world of possession. The love of your life is by your side. The movie ends with an epilogue. This lyrical Wing left in the 60s. IP became a great master of Wing Chun. The movie begins when IP Man is diagnosed with head and neck cancer. Doctor, however, it was suggested that he do chemotherapy. IP Man just fell silent. Foreign, a dark-skinned man visits the Chun Pavilion Academy, and how happy he was when he saw Fitman the Wing Chun's photo. Sidba was kicked out from inside because of the language barrier he feels. He is not welcome and fights Wing Chun students. But when he was about to kick, a student suddenly appeared. IP Man and block his heart kick instead of being angry, excited, and hugging. Then the IP guy introduces himself as such. Student Billy Bruce Lee came from him. Then the United States gave IP Man Invitation to watch karate fight with. Airline ticket and Kung Fu guide. Book written by Bruce Lee, but Moon is happy. An invitation, but he declines it, saying he doesn't have much time. Ip Man. Then Bailey left and then left the invitation. For the student, he has also gone far in school so far. Monsoon Ip Ching hit his friend on it. Makes Ip Man's main call. The school informs him that Ip Ching. After that, the principal of the school should be dismissed. Ip Man proposes to send his son to study. Outside he remains silent, and he decided to send his son abroad. One night a man called him Ip Fatso, a place that is required to sponsor Ip Ching, while in the US, but Ip Ping. Suddenly he came out and they protested against him. Fathers wish to go crazy, he does not. He said, you want to go to the United States. He doesn't even want to go to school. He just wants to learn Kung Fu like him. My father felt he was tired of being static. He took the blame after hearing his mother's death. The Ip Man got angry and slapped the Ip. Then King Fatso broke the tense and Ip Man calmed down. The next day Ip Man. Finally, he traveled to the United States. Coming there, Ip Man has been chosen by Khan and bring it to the Chinese charity for Chinese immigrants permits in United States to sponsor Ip Man. The paper transfer that got there was Ip Man, but some Kung Fu masters welcomed it. Before defining its main objective, one, the head of the Ip Man asked first. Bruce Lee scolded his student for this. He taught Kung Fu to foreigners. Handbook of Kung Fu written in Lang language. The English are even engaged in karate. One fears Mr. It happened on. Aliens in the future can attack. The Chinese came back with Kung Fu, and then they got it. In a small fight through the glass tea table, until the table smashed into pieces. After that Ip Man excuses himself. He failed to obtain his transfer papers. Ip Ching in the residence is called Ip Man. Ip Man is in Hong Kong, but Fatso chose to phone instead because Ip Man, his father, is still frowned upon. On the other hand, the first teacher was training him, Yona's daughter, when she was actually Yona. I wasn't interested in Kung Fu, but he had a passion about encouragement. The next morning a man Kentucky'd him, so he can get some helps to move the papers, but it refused them, so they went home. Then, disappointed in Ip Man night, I decided to attend a Bruce Lee event. Calling Bruce Lee also seems excited, seeing his master's presence, standing in action shown by Bruce Lee. Then he punched the legendary Bruce Lee 1 inch. I agreed to help Ip Man with Ipsings move the paper when you meet him yet. He also happened to provide one of his files. Hartman's students whom he was serving. US Marines. Then there was some karate. He challenges Bruce Lee out of nowhere. Then Bruce Lee deals with them outside. Restaurant with Ip Man watching them from inside the restaurant. Then the fight takes them to an alley, where Bruce Lee managed to defeat Karate Master made it. We acknowledge the greatness of Bruce Lee. The next day, Ip Man visits the school. Transfer papers. Unfortunately, Ip Man also needs permission from Chinese charity, or if a donation of $10,000 can be made. School, so they can ignore. Leaves on the other hand turns from Yona Master 1's daughter, one of the students there, where it seems that he was chosen as one of the school's main cheerleading team, but then a girl named Becky looks jealous and reject the teacher's decision by saying she doesn't deserve the position. But the teacher still insisted. When Ip Man just got out of school, surprised by a crowd of FR turned around, it is revealed that Yona was the one who was bullied. Becky and her boyfriend Gang are there. They carried her over the fence, and Becky, she cuts her hair so Jonah can't. He is on the major cheerleading squad. Then Yona managed to break free and he pushes Becky to the fence where she is. Her face was scratched when she was Yuna. He is about to be pinned by the fence door. Ip Man manages to push Yuna away, fix his arm instead, and then Ip Man. He overcomes young thugs with his happy energy. Kung Fu meal moves foreign. Then those thugs ran away. Later, Man Ip takes Juna home by bus. There they have some chatting about Ip Man's the problem that Yuna was willing to help Ip Man for authorization. On the other, Becky's hand complained to her mother about what she went through after that. Her mother called her husband to deal with him. The problem is apparently her husband. It's someone from the US immigration coming. Yona then convinces her father to give up. Ip Man's statement was shocked to see it. Her daughter's face rather than being present. He was sad that he slapped his daughter, disappointed, and cried while Ip Man. By Yona then one Mr. said that guy won't understand Ip because he does not live there, but Monin is gone. But then Mr. 1 stopped him, challenge him to a fight he doesn't like. When Ip Man uses his daughter to get it, his statement then got into a fight. Right in front of Yuna was like a scary fight considering that it is. They were both Kung Fu masters, but they were fighting each other. Then it had to be stopped because the earthquake happened. But the man excuses himself at home and says he was taking Yoda home for free, allow but to protect her back. Housing IP a man called IP Ching, but he won't quite pick it up like before. On the other hand, the cadets have karate. He practices while Hartman pulls his mukjong, or a wooden dummy, and then Sergeant Barton. He asks him to throw it away, saying so. The doll belongs to the Chinese museum, but Hartman rejects any conclusion. Barton challenges Hartman to a fight against Karate Master Colin for that. He can agree to Kung Fu for curriculum if Hartman can win. Please, yet he did not make it wooden, and ended up burning the effigy. On the other hand, Yona came to IP Man to invite him for the Chinese festival, and accepts. At Hartman's headquarters, AJ show Chinese Kung Fu to his captain, and it turns him on. Come here. Then Barton ordered to learn it, and Hartman ordered to the Chinese festival to do his research. He teased Barton then. He told Colin about it, and Colin decided to come to the festival to prove it. Karate is finally better than Kung Fu. The feast night came after a month. He attended the festival there too. Hartman recorded the event, and then Jonah. He approached the IP man and proposed to him. Sit in front of him. But he refuses and says to prepare herself for it. And not on the other hand. While signing some paperwork mastery, he is caught by Walter's Becky's father because of the issue of illegal Chinese immigrants. Then Mr. One was escorted to office. Meanwhile, Colin shows up at the festival. People were provoked and challenged Kung Fu masters. He managed to defeat the masters of Kung Fu, one by one, even when he was about to. Female Kung Fu master kicks IP Man hit, who continued with him. Fierce battle between them. After he managed to defeat Colin and Kane. Cheers from Chinatown residents. The middle of Yuna's uncle's celebration. He suddenly appeared, telling her this. Father caught and then rushed to immigration office, while on the other, Barton's side visits Colin W. He gets annoyed more and decides go to the Chinese Charity Association. Immediately in the office, Walter charged one mastery of permit fraud, illegal Chinese immigrants. Of course he denied this accusation, but because he still sends out his personal problems, his men join the association to arrest everyone. People there get to the office, but he stops Billy Moon and Jonah, where he warned them not to go association because they were sending people have their right. Then when Yuna, his uncle, called his friends, Barton's warning suddenly arrived. Association and beat them all. Foreign was looking for a single master, and people had no choice but to tell him. Then Master Barton's place. He immediately went to emigrate office after learning of the attack and access to the IP Man Association. Unfortunately, Barton Khan could not be found. Then he asks them to empty the due place. Immigration arrival. Asks the immigration office Barton Walters for permission to take an MSC-1 to the Marine Corps headquarters to fight. There he reached the headquarters. He then wakes each cadet to watch his fight against Mr. One, and a fierce battle is taking place. Unfortunately, the first teacher was a heavyweight. He is wounded and defeated by Sergeant Barton. On the other hand, IP Man takes a people gather at Bruce Lee's gym, where the association of people is dealt with. Then I apologize to Bruce Lee for past judgments towards him. When they treated Bruce Lee, suddenly he gets a call from Hartman telling him about mastering one's condition beyond. Barton IP Man fight, then lunges to the hospital. They're called IP Man Ipshin as usual, but very usual Fatso. He is the person who answers the phone. IP Man. Then he told Fatso about his cancer. Fatso hears that and then forces a ping to pick up the phone. However, Manon apologized for slapping him. At that time, IP Man promises to teach in Kung Fu as soon as he gets home. The man cried IP asking his father to come at home, but the man calmed his son down and tell him it will be home after he finished his business in it. United States. Then IP Man asked Hartman to take him to Barton, but Jonah prevented him from going. However, then the guy IP convinces her to tell her that fight against injustice is the target of martial arts, and IP Man is gone far. The next morning, Hartman takes the IP Man to Marine headquarters to meet with Barton. Barton seems eager to get revenge on Colin. Defeat. IP Man seems overwhelmed because a cancer in his head. Barton beats a hitman up and down, but IP Man manages to get up and fight Barton. IP Man finally manages to defeat Barton with his last blow on the neck of the obese and students who applaud in IP Man's victory. After fighting in the Chinese Good Association gave one master. IP Man has an IP Man permit that he gladly accepts him and say goodbye to him. Arriving home, Ching asked his father his knowledge of Wing Chun. IP Man but agreed. Tell him he will only show it once. So he asked IP Ching to record it. The movie ended with the arrival of Bruce Lee, his master's funeral to pay the latter. He respects the master of Wing Chun supreme. IP Man and the movie are over. See you in the next video.